All right, an update on the Prerunner build. I know it's been a minute, but I've had to wait for quite a few things to show up. The LX shocks, I ordered some wheels. These are not the wheels I'm going to be using. I've just got these set up on here to kind of see the positioning of the body and make sure I have everything lined up. So yeah, I've got the placement of the cage pretty good. And main reason I'm doing this video is the mounting of the shocks. This is a LX shock review video and also an update on the Prerunner build. So yeah, so I've got the shocks all put together and you'll see I did have some issues with the shocks. We'll go through that. Some of this video is going to be a voiceover, but yeah, I've got the body on here. I've got it located and centered. The shocks are looking good, if you can see up in there. Yeah, so this mount here, I've used the SSD rear shock mounts and body mounts, and you'll see in the video here I had to compromise with the rear cage. It looks like the designer designed this to only mount one rear shock. And on the description of the Cult's files, he mentions that he made a shock hoop in one of the questions to mount his shocks. So the rear cage, this design is great, but the rear cage doesn't work if you're going to try to mount two shocks. So what I've done here is I've made this bar that sort of mounts in the body posts of the SSD, and that kind of locates this whole rail system here. I'll take the body off and show you in a minute, and I've also made this piece down here. You can see there, this piece butts right up against the body, and these pieces go down into those holes, and the open part here slides onto this shaft. And then I'm going to fasten them with glue to these posts and here. I've made them adjustable so they can slide on this shaft and slide up and down here so that I can locate the cage properly and then get the body centered. And then we have a secure mounting point where I can mount two shocks. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. I've also got some of the interior printed and the body's looking pretty decent. I've got a little more body work to go, but yeah, so just a quick update on that. I wanted to show you there's definitely some complications, and like a lot of these builds, you kind of get stumped halfway through and have to change course. So anyway, I'll take the body off and I'll show you some of the transmission and what I'm working with here. But yeah, it's taking a little longer. So there we are. Shocks are looking really good. I've got this little D-Boots tire holding up what I am talking about here. So as you can see here, it slides onto this shaft, goes into here. I'm gonna make this longer. So I made it adjustable. So like I'm saying, I can locate the cage wherever I need to. And you can see here, there's a slit in the design of this. And yeah, so it locates on the body posts, allows me to adjust shocks back and forth, and allows me to locate the cage in, a good position to keep the body centered. So, bit of an ordeal, but it is coming along. Okay, moving on to transmission. All right, transmission. I'm using one of these mounts from AliExpress. I'm just going to use this 540 motor. And the reason I'm using the 540 motor is I'm just gonna mount, like this isn't gonna be, anything I'm gonna launch or anything. I know you guys might be disappointed, but I don't know, it might turn into a shelf queen. But anyway, 540 motor so that I can mount, I'll show you that in a sec here. So I'm either gonna run the SSD V8 and I gotta dress it up a little more. I also picked up the Miller Motorsports model. So yeah, I'm just gonna mount that on a regular Tamiya 540, and then it's all about the model of the motor, not really the electric motor inside. So, but yeah, that's gonna be pretty sweet. I'm gonna have to work at that, but that's what I'm working with on the scale detailing of the motor inside. Now in terms of drive shaft, I'm just running this carrier bearing here, And yeah, I happen to have this shaft kicking around. It fits. You can adjust this motor mount fore and aft, and so I'll work at that. We'll get the placement correct. But yeah, this cage ordeal took up quite a bit of work, so sorry if I took a while to update you guys, but that's just what's going on. I'll probably make these files available on my Cults account if you want to mod it this way. I'll make sure that it works perfect before I upload anything. Yeah, so that's what's going on here. And then waiting for a lot of stuff to come in. So it takes like a month to come from AliExpress sometimes, a couple weeks to a month. But yeah, the video is going to have the building of the shocks here. It's a bit of an update of the Prerunner build, obviously, but I'll address some of the issues with a voiceover on the shock build. Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Pretty sweet. I'm happy with it. It's definitely taken a while though. So yeah, the designer even states in the file for the body, like, this is a pretty extensive build, so be patient. There's the extended bumper. Like, that's one of the things I had to wait for to come in because the other bumper is too short. So yeah, so the longer bumper mount helps the cage mount on. The bumper mount that came with these rails was too short, so I did have to order that. And now I don't have to use those extensions that I designed. And the piggyback's just hanging there. I'll cut the tubing short and mount it either on the cage here or inside here, the shock hoop. So, but anyway, that's what we're working with. So if you want to watch the assembly of the LX shocks, it'll be after this, and you can kind of see what I think of these. Oh yeah, as for the steering knuckles, I ordered up these from AliExpress. Now I know the tie rods are sort of in the wrong location, but the design of these would drop the tie rods too low. I could put some tie rod ends that are bent, but I've got the placement pretty good here. I'll work at the steering assembly, but these look pretty good. They're pretty decent. Got kind of a billet machined look, so I don't know. I'm just piecing stuff together, but we'll see how this looks. We'll see how it works. If we need to change them, it's no big deal. They don't cost that much. Also, give you an update on the paint. I'm going to be doing a custom color. That's like a metallic maroon. It doesn't look like it on the cap. We'll see how it looks when it sprays out. It's a pretty heavy metallic maroon. It might turn out lighter. And then I've got, yeah, a 2K clear coat. So we're going to try to make the body shine. And that's why I'm saying it might just turn into a shelf queen. I'm having fun with building this thing. I don't know, depending on how it looks, I might be too attached to run it after building it, but I'll definitely run it a little bit. We got to get some shots of it for sure. All right, so now we're moving on to building the shocks. I ordered a couple 100s for the rear and a couple 90s for the front, one set of bypass and one set of coilover for front and back. So yeah, crack them open here. Gonna see how they look. They come packaged up pretty nice. The coilovers come in the bags as you saw, and then the bypasses come in a nice sealed up box here. So yeah, let's check them out. Now, first impressions right out of the packaging is pretty nice. They give you a long enough tubing there to be able to trim it, depending on where you're going to run your bypass reservoirs. The quality is pretty nice of the reservoir, and the tubing just slides on there pretty easily. There's this little nipple there that you kind of thread on to hold the tubing in place. So yeah, you can just trim it up however long you want. Technically, you got enough to, just in case you ruin it later on. Yeah, so the seals come dry. There's this weird grease on them there. I don't know about that, but we're going to put our own stuff in there. It looks like silicone that comes on it, but there's definitely not enough. You definitely want to build them with your own grease. I'm using Mobile 28 grease. It doesn't affect seals, and it's good on a lot of different things. I could use green slime or silicoleum, other products, but I have so much Mobile 28 that I'm going to use that. But first glance, pretty nice. The build quality's decent. It's probably just slapped together at the factory, but yeah, we're gonna throw some oil in them and lube up the seals so we have a fighting chance for them to last long. Rumor has it they leak. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, the quality's pretty nice. The piston looks pretty decent. And they're inexpensive. These guys are only like $20 for the pair. So yeah. The ones on AliExpress that are very similar to this, they're more expensive. So it was definitely worth it to get it from this guy. But yeah, there's the pack inside there. I gotta get some grease on those and throw some oil in and slap them back together. But yeah, this Mobile 28 stuff's really nice. The threading on the top cap and all the other threading on the components seem pretty nice. The seals seem decent, and yeah, there's a tiny little hole machined straight through to the tubing here, so the oil will have no problem getting through. So far, so good. And I'm using some 450 CST shock oil just from an older kit. I think it's from a Yokomo. It's around 35 weight, I believe. Yeah, just gonna get some in there, bleed the shocks, and see how they feel. Pretty smooth, actually. Now that I've got the Mobile 28 grease on the seals and worked in some of the shock oil, it's pretty decent. Pretty smooth action, no significant binding, nothing that I noticed. Now I'm going to have to bleed them again because I'm going to have to trim the hose depending on where the location of the reservoir is. But yeah, I could also fill up the reservoir with a little syringe. But anyway, now we will crack open the 100mm bypass shocks. Sealed up pretty good. They come in this awesome little box, magnetically closes. And wow, look at that. It's pretty nice. Very well packaged. Nice presentation. Let's get into them. Each one comes with a nice diagram, instruction manual, and stickers. The instructions are pretty decent too. Let's check out the fit and finish on these. Pretty decent. You gotta check the pistons. They are sometimes loose. But yeah, the casting is really nice. It's very nice. Like, the adjustment for the rebound and compression on these are non-adjustable. They are on the larger 1/7 scale version. These are the 1/10 scale version. And yeah, you can see the anodizing is really nice quality. So I'll just show you some of the components here. This is the bypass piston. It's pretty nice, brass. You put it in with the threads facing up so that you could pull it out if you need to. That's kind of a nice feature. And then here's the bottom of the shock shaft where all the seal pack goes. And we first start off by putting the shock shaft through the main body. Looks pretty decent. Throwing on the first seal. I'm going to throw some grease on the shock shaft, don't worry. And that happens to be seal number 4. I may screw up and not show you everything, all the part numbers, but we'll give it a try. This little plastic insert goes into the bottom of the cap where the seal pack goes. It's essentially a Teflon guide. Just press it in there, make sure it's squared up. And then something key. The bottom seal here, you got to make sure the groove faces the shock body. And then there's a little lip where it kind of fits in and seats into the bottom of the shock cap. So just take a look there. Kind of goes like that. I don't know if you can see that, but the instruction manual definitely calls that out. So pretty good. And we'll throw some grease on everything. And once I got the cap all the way on, I'm going to use my trusty shock pliers here to not mar the anodizing and just kind of tighten it. There's quite a bit of stiction in the beginning until you put the shock oil in, but that's the first part. On to the next step. And now I'm just throwing some shock oil on the seal of the bypass piston, just to make sure it's all lubricated before we put it in. And for the bypass adjustment, you put in this threaded rod here, and then you throw on this tiny little O-ring. So they give you some spares though, that's kind of nice. And now we're just threading down the top cap for the bypass side. And I noticed that the seal sits a little proud. I tried to work it in there, but something going on there. It's almost like the seal's not the right one. I don't know. Maybe that's the way it's designed. But I'm going to throw some oil in here. And I, of course, take off the bypass side after and refill it up. Put about half and half on each side, I found was sort of the best way to go about it. Had to remove the little alloy puck and then just top it up. The nice thing about these bypass shocks though is there is no air buildup. It's excellent. So kind of wish some of the RC race shocks felt like this. There is a little bit of stiction in these. They're fairly smooth once they work in, but yeah, pretty interesting. And I'm gonna throw some grease on the top cap here and get it on there. Wipe it off. Now I'm gonna leave the stickers off for now. I'll clean it up with isopropyl, but I want to mount them first on the truck and then get the placement of the stickers in the right location, just to kind of clock them in the right orientation. But yeah, just cleaning everything off, cycle it a little bit, and I kind of threw the bypass adjustment about halfway down with that little screw. So well, that's the first one done, but after doing a bunch of the other ones, I'm gonna show you right now what I ran into. One of the first things that annoyed me is this shock body had no issues on this side, but on this side it had a dent slash scratch, I guess you could say. It'll be covered up with the decals, but that was one thing. The other thing I found odd was this steel sitting above the bypass side of each shock body. Maybe it's meant to be like that, but I've never seen anything like that before, so that's a bit odd. And the last frustrating thing was one of these shock caps that holds the seal pack came with a broken seal already installed. So I had to search for some and luckily I found one. And here they are, all complete. Pretty nice. Where else can you get 10 scale bypass shocks that look this real? Other than the setbacks, and I'll email to see how they address it. I'll update you guys on their customer service, see what's up. But yeah, pretty nice. Pretty excited about it. That's the end of the video for part 4 of the Prerunner update. And yeah, stop by for the next video. Hopefully paint will be done. Peace, everyone.